It's the cry of generation. It's a stirring in our soul. It's dreams still in focus. It's hope still whole. For children that are and those who will be, our destiny is justice for once, for all, forever. Let it be. No more delays, denials can ignore our voices, nor suppress our choices. We come for all that God has gave, unashamed descendants of the indigenous immigrants and the once enslaved. For children that are and all those who will be, our destiny is justice for once, for all, forever. Let it be. Liberation when we read, love when we lead, moving at the speed of student needs, pushing against the abundance of oppressive greed. For children that are and all those who will be, our destiny is justice for once, for all, forever. Let it be. All right, Senator James Rashad Coleman.
Yes, sir.
Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
We are sitting here having conversations with people we consider justice warriors, and you're one of those guys.
Appreciate that.
And so, tell folks a little bit about you. First, those who don't know you, and kind of your path to this moment, the abbreviated version, because I got some stuff I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
And I know you like to talk.
Long story short,
Yeah.
I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a man of God, and I got into this work in the state legislature because of my upbringing. Grew up in church, blessed to represent Senate District 33, which is far northeast Denver, but it's
Senate district.
The best Senate district.
Yes.
It is every church I went to, every rec center I played at, every business. And so for me, it's an honor to represent the district that raised me. But part of my upbringing was spending time with my father doing street ministry. And so I've been conditioned for service. And so whether that was going to nursing homes or soup kitchens, you fast forward, 2016 we ran for the state house, 2018 ran for re-election, 2020 ran for the state senate, was blessed to run for my final re-election to the state senate just a couple weeks ago, and so here we are.
Won that election.
It was a tough victory.
Yeah.
But God is good, and we're blessed to be back again, and then ran for Senate President and was blessed to win by acclamation of my colleagues. And so in my position for 8 years, I've been working on policies that impact people who need it the most, especially when it comes to education policy with good people like Pastor Vernon Jones. But now as Senate President, I get to continue to do that work, but I also get a chance to serve the servants.
Yeah.
So now my job is not just to represent the other 22 Democrats, but I'm the president of the Senate, which is all of the 34 other senators. And so across the country, across the state, we get a chance to do work that, in this particular vein, focuses on what I know you and I agree is the most important issue, and it's the education of our children.
Yeah.
And that's me, and that's what I get a chance to do, and I'm honored to be here to talk more about that with you.
What I love about the role and what I've been able to see in your leadership, we both, you're a justice warrior, like I said, we both believe that we have to be fighting for justice. You have taken a unique, and I don't want to say unique, but you've taken a very intentional approach to bridge the divides that often exist in a political space. You know, you've got people who are loyal to their party, and justice sometimes does not, and I don't say sometimes, justice is not realized in those partisan silos. How have you used your leadership to bring those partisan silos into this bipartisan culture on some of these key things that you passed, serving as a first state rep, now the state senator? How have you been able to do that? I mean, divides everywhere, but you've been able to, for justice sake.
Yeah.
What has that taken? And what has that taken out of you? I mean, I don't think that gets talked about a lot. What have you done? But then what has that taken out of you?
Yeah, so justice means a lot of different things to different people. For me, it's rooted in Micah 6:8.
Yeah.
And so that means literally to love and to walk and to do.
Yeah.
It's something that you're supposed to act. It's not something you just say. So what that means in terms of rooted in faith, I think about Jesus, and I think about how he went to people that the common folk would say, you shouldn't be around these people, or the Pharisees and Sadducees, the leaders of the time, say, you shouldn't be around these people. So for me, we say in our political world, why are you hanging out with Republicans? And so my thing is, because I want to understand how I can best serve all of Colorado, including the parts of the state where they may represent. So an opportunity to go down to Alamosa and spend time with Senator Cleve Simpson and his wife Kathy was also a cheap vacation that my wife and I and the kids took to go see the sand dunes.
Yeah.
It's one of those trips my kids were like, hey, are we here for vacation or are we really here for work? Like, we're here for work. You're correct. But when I went down there, I had an opportunity to literally see where he was coming from. So when he comes to the Capitol and he talks about water policy, and I'm like, brother, I think that's great. I want to talk to you about education. I want to talk to you about serving our youth, criminal justice. I want to talk about all these things that we talk about a lot of times in metro, not rural communities.
Yeah.
And he says, well, yeah, I care about those things too, but those things are funded off of agriculture.
Right.
And I need water to grow. And so me going to see the same way Jesus went to see where people were coming from, justice is rooted in faith for me.
Right. And justice is a very real thing that I believe from your disposition and work is that's only achievable if we choose to walk across the street, or if we choose to go to Alamosa and say, hey neighbor, what's going on?
That's right.
Right? It's not a, some folks would think that it is about, as other interviews said, fight. And I think your approach has been like, come together, right?
Yeah.
What does that meant for you though? Like as
Yeah, well, for me, it's shown by the election of being Senate President that people like that model. They want someone who's going to fight for them, but they know that we're all on the same team.
Right.
So they want someone that's going to figure out a way for us to all fight together, not against people, but against issues and against problems and find common solutions.
Right.
Because the same problems that we all say are issues, which my grandfather would call, the bare necessities.
Yeah.
When we grew up, it was like, hey, you got to have a roof over your head, clothes on your back, and food on the table.
Yeah.
Who doesn't need that?
Right.
So it's a universal need. So if we all come together and realize that is something we all collectively need, then great. I think for you and me, we say like, look, first of all, kids didn't decide that they just want to be here. They're here because their parents had them.
Right.
And then we who are in positions of leadership have a responsibility that they don't control necessarily. We want to involve them in, but ultimately we're the adults who make the decisions. And so we're responsible for them.
Right.
Therefore, we're responsible for their education. So we have to figure out a way to focus on the issue. The issue is kids aren't learning.
Right.
We know our babies are smart. We're not preparing them to be successful in life. That's the problem. It's not reform or traditional.
Right.
It's we as adults got to get the heck out of the way and focus on attacking the issue for our kids.
Why don't we do that, Senator?
Why don't we do that?
Why don't we do that? I mean, you're right. The adults are in the way, and when we talk to young people say that, and it's from their social aspect. If they're at home, they're like mom and dad are arguing, or whoever their guardians are arguing, and we don't get things done as kids because we got to wait on the adults. Then we go to school, and you tell me my principal and my teacher are arguing, or my principal and my teacher are arguing with the district. So again, adults are arguing, and so then the kids, justice is delayed, and we know justice delayed is justice denied. How long is a leader, as a state leader who is at the top of our state system, how long do we support that kind of delay? Or do you push and say, adults, to your point, we got to get out the way and do the best things for kids?
To answer your question, I would support that kind of delay as long as I would support it for my kids, which I wouldn't.
Right.
Today, I need that to get fixed.
Right.
Because my children need to learn. Now, if we treated every child like our own, then we wouldn't be having these battles. So if you have that lens as a leader, whether you're in elected office at the Capitol or you're the executive director, leader of Faith Bridge, then you go into the work with a sense of urgency. And again, not attacking, but saying, guys, do you agree there's a problem here?
Right.
Okay, I need you to work with me to solve that problem. And so I think what you also have to do is you have to have people who are willing to sacrifice. And again, that comes back to what's rooted in our faith. We're less concerned about what's politically expedient and continue to climb up a ladder, and more concerned about while we're here, we might as well get something done. I joke all the time. I'm very grateful for $42,000 a year of a salary, but I can make that work at a local fast food restaurant. Why am I doing this work unless I'm going to get some change and make some impact? And so that is more important than I'm going to see what my next thing on the ladder of running for political office is.
So justice, the change, what does that look like? I know you've done a lot of work around recidivism, knowing that a lot of the black boys that look like us have had a very different experience than other peers in education. The school to prison pipeline is a very real thing. Right?
Yes.
You've worked hard to talk about, okay, these kids have gone into the system because of the school to prison pipeline. They become adults who are now in the system, and then they come out, and we see the recidivism rate is high, right? Where does justice, in your view, get in there and remedy that?
Yeah, absolutely. So two things. One, I truly believe that we have to have the resources financially in order to do the work. All right, like the work that Faith Bridge is doing is only happening now because you and me and others were able to secure the funding to do it. A lot of times, people we would see advocating didn't look like us, weren't us, hadn't been in the city like us, didn't have kids and went through the school system, didn't grow up here, and understand those generational traumas that ultimately, were issues with our education system. So I think that's the first thing, right? And so please go to www.faithbridge. I'm just playing.
Yeah,
no, but in all seriousness, I think when it comes to K-12 education in Colorado, even higher ed, it's about making sure that we are affording more than high quality options for our kids. And that's, again, the school finance formula that we reformed this year, which is great, but we got to do more, right? We're facing a budget deficit, $1.4 billion at the state this year, and we can't go back on what we just did. Right. We just got rid of the deficit that we had, the debt that we pay every year before we can fund education. Right. And we made it so that schools in our community, and not just schools in more affluent communities, get funded because of the need, not because of where you live and your socioeconomic status. That's one. So I think funding is critical. My personal belief is that our kids don't honestly know why they're in school. They have no ownership. They have no agency over their education. And so while we want to make sure they're learning the basics, we also want to make sure they're understanding what they want to be and then connecting what they want to be with every step of that journey through the K-12 process. And so again, you have the funding and support and resources, and teachers can afford to live in the communities where they teach. That's great. Then you also have our students saying, I know what I want to be. And that might change, but like I'm now excited and I'm passionate about this. That is going to keep me out of trouble. Why? Because now I have something to lose. When I have nothing to lose, it's different.
I heard I've heard your story over and over again about being a young black boy who was going through your own educational experience. As you say, I was kicked out of every school, right? I could probably do it in my good James Coleman voice. I was kicked out of every school up until middle school, right? You get out of middle school there, then you get involved in a school called Excel Institute.
Man.
Excel Institute, as you say, exposed you to things that you were not seeing in the traditional system, right? You saw black leadership, you saw black administrators, you began to learn black history, and not once a month. Not just in February. It was an all the time thing, right? And so does justice look like that, Senator, in our education spaces?
No.
Do we need, how do we do
should,
that? Yes,
But it doesn't. So I think, we've explored making sure that we're teaching Colorado kids about the tragedy that was the Holocaust. We passed a bill on that. But we also could be talking about the reality of slavery in America. And not as a tragedy, but looking at where we are today as a result of all the work that happened up until this point. When we talk about justice, that is justice in action. We can see when people come together. Civil Rights Act wasn't just black folks, right? It was a group of people who wanted to make sure that everybody had equality and equity as we are here in 2024, and we still have a ways to go. So for me, I think it looks like, again, meeting every child where they are. That individual need that was met for me wasn't just seeing great leaders like Rosa Parks and Dr. King. It was seeing great leaders in Colorado who looked like me. And then again, that gave me a purpose. You said something earlier, and I'll tell you like what I got ultimately from Excel. It was love. And I didn't know what that felt like in an academic setting. I felt like I was there because I had to be there. And then when I got to Excel, it was like people were like my mama and everybody, and what I mean by that is they weren't going to let me just say and do whatever. They genuinely cared about what I said, what I thought, and then they taught me to be a critical thinker. And part of being a critical thinker is knowing what you think. And so if you're just kind of repeating and regurgitating and copying for a test, it's not studying, not learning, but just like memorizing so that I can take this test and then move on to the next class. I wasn't learning. And so that for me was what I learned at Excel, and I wish that for every one of our kids.
Yeah, justice is in that story too about justice for you was your mother had this opportunity, got this program, heard about scholarship, got you there. Is justice access to quality programs,
Absolutely.
quality education?
Absolutely, it is.
And how do we do that? How do we ensure that at our state level, where we still have? I mean, you know what got FaithBridge started. We're looking at literacy rates that were abysmal. We're looking at third and fourth graders that had 5% proficiency, black and brown kids. And we said that's not acceptable at all,
Yeah.
right? Is justice ensuring that black, brown, poor kids, whoever wants, has access to opportunities that would say, I can be prepared to be Senator Coleman.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely.
be prepared, you know. And how do we do that? I mean,
Yeah.
there's people who don't want, and I love that. I don't want to say people because I agree with you said earlier. I don't want to make this against people, but there's ideologies, thoughts,
Yeah.
mindsets
Yeah.
that only certain people get that
Yeah.
access.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you lead that charge? How do you continue to lead that charge to ensure that kids have access to quality programming?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first part was the equalization of funding. I think
Yeah.
that was the first thing.
Yeah.
I think the second thing is looking at how we truly evaluate our educators and looking at how we evaluate how our students are academically performing. Because if you're evaluating about our students and their educators based off of one test, or a test is not culturally sensitive, like these are the things that we have to figure out. I mean, I remember being in class and struggling, having test anxiety, and then going to sit down with the teacher and they would ask me the question and I could answer it.
Right.
I could show my work, I could write it down.
You could demonstrate
I
mastery.
could demonstrate.
Yeah, in very different ways.
That's right. And so how do we not only engage our students at an individualized level, but then when it comes to formative and summative testing, we do want to know
Right.
how our students are they growing, are they improving?
Right.
But right now, I think the way that we do that is very structured in a way where we want it to be equal. It's like Brown versus Board.
Yeah.
And it's like, and what we don't want to do is we don't want to trade effectiveness for equalization.
Right.
Now, everybody's getting the same thing, but if you want to go get some food and you have dietary restrictions, everybody got the same thing.
Right.
But I can't eat that.
Right.
So thank you. I got the same thing that person did, but how do you individualize it and make it for me?
Shock because
That's
I won't
correct.
stick to it, right? You know,
Yeah.
You know, but that's the thing. Is like equity is,
Yeah.
to your point, giving students what they need, how
Yeah.
they need it, and allowing them to still demonstrate. That's justice.
Yeah.
Justice is equity, right?
Yeah.
I love what I think it's Cornel West says, that justice is what love looks like out loud, right?
I love that.
And so I think that's where we resonate, is that when you said I felt loved at Excel, you felt justice and you were able to be elevated from where you were.
That's right.
From a system that was unjust and therefore unloving. And then when you got into a system that was loving, you experienced the benefits of justice.
That's right.
And you believe, as a father of two great twins who just turned 14. Right?
Yeah, just turned 14
Just
on
turned
Sunday.
14, and
Help me.
yes, good luck.
Pray for me.
They just turned 14. You believe that the world that Naomi and James Jr. deserves, so do their peers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think look, I'm not saying we don't all think that, but we have to all act that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we have to do at the legislature. We have to do a better job of working at the Senate, at the House, with the governor, with the state departments. We do have to continue to go to our schools, talk to teachers.
Yeah.
A lot of times we'll see people come down to the Capitol, but go to your school if you're an elected leader and talk to the educators, talk to the kids. I get some of the best ideas from just going and engaging, and then I come back and we get those policies passed, and people think that that was my idea that I created, and no, it was an idea that came from community, and that's also alleviating another problem that we sometimes have as elected leaders. We think we have to have all the answers.
Yeah.
What you have to do is not remain ignorant.
Yeah.
So if you can go get the information, come back and implement that and do the work, we can make a different reality for our educators and for our students.
Yeah, I know you're big time now, so your time is precious. So
Yeah,
I know
right.
We're not
Okay.
going to let it last too much longer, but
Yeah, as I was late, I
Yeah.
apologize.
Justice is
Every one of our kids being able to live out their dreams as defined by them. Not me, not somebody else, but live out your dreams. You have a goal, you have a strategy, and then you have your why, and you have the mentality to go and get it. We don't even ask the question. They don't even know what they want to be. They do, but we don't bring it out of them.
Yeah.
That's what justice for me is.
And you are going to lead a state where justice is realized.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And I'm excited about continuing to partner with Faith Bridge and other community organizations. It takes a village.
Yeah.
And so I will do my part of the state. I know you're doing the part, and communities doing the part. But I think working collectively, we'll get to that place.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, Vernon Jones is going to come find me.
Yeah.
So we're going to get it done.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Justice Cast. If you are moved and inspired by what you heard this week, we need you to do justice by doing 3 things. Number 1, like and share this episode with your friends and family and network. Number 2, sign and share the Do Justice Pledge. And 3, join us for an upcoming Do Justice action. You can find those listed on our website at www.faithbridgeco.org. That's www.faithbridgeco.org. Remember, the world we believe for is possible. Do justice.
Thank you to Senate President James Coleman for being our guest this week. Thank you to our funders and sponsors. Join us next week when Vernon sits down with House Assistant Majority Leader Jennifer Bacon.